Big Conversations, Little Bar, with your hosts Randy Florence and Patrick Evans, featuring candid conversations with the Coachella Valley's most interesting and influential people. Pull up a bar stool and enjoy Big Conversations, Little Bar.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Big Conversations.
Stop.
Whoa.
Stop.
Whoa.
Well, I have to make an announcement.
Oh, no.
No.
Today's a very special day. Finish up. What's your name?
I'm Patrick Evans, and that is my co-host and dear friend and interrupter extraordinaire, Randy
Today,
Florence.
my co-host received an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Achievement in Morning News. Patrick Evans,
wow.
congratulations.
Wow. Congrats.
Now, I'm saying this morning, but this could air 3 years from now, so I'm not exactly sure when they're going to...
Some time ago, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Far, far away. Congratulations, buddy.
This is our morning newscast's second nomination for an Emmy, and we won the first time out. This will air well after the awards are given out. We'll know in a couple of weeks when the Emmys take place at the Westin Mission Hills in Rancho Mirage. So
it's pretty cool, and I'm thrilled that you let me sit this close to you.
Well, I am told that once one wins his second Emmy, Randy Florence has to buy you drinks for life. So I'm very excited about that. I am more excited about the fact that we have a terrific member of our Coachella Valley community as our guest today, Vince Battaglia.
Where is it? When is this person showing up?
He's showing up right after you finish, Vince.
Very great. Thank you. Wow, I don't think I've ever been so honored.
From
by the way,
Renova Energy.
I got to tell you, this is, we were talking about this before, this is a great setup. Hey, if anyone gets invited to come down at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday afternoon to Skips, I got Cabernet in front of us. This is fantastic.
Day drinking is a thing when it involves podcasts.
This is wonderful. This is what the missing ingredient was.
As I've pointed out for a long time, I'm in morning news. So if I don't day drink, I don't get to drink. So it has to happen. I get off the air at 1 o'clock, so it's a fair game after that. Vince, we're delighted to have you. In full disclosure, I am also a Renova Energy client and customer.
Yes,
we have 24 Renova panels on our roof.
Good.
At our home in Cathedral City, and we're very, very happy with the system. But I think really there were two reasons that you came to our mind as a guest. And one of them was simply the relevance of solar and renewables and the longevity that you've enjoyed in the Valley, but also your presence on the other side of the coin. You're not just you don't just operate a company, but you're also very involved in the community. You do a lot of charity work through Renova.
Yep.
And so you have a great presence here in the community, but it's just a nice chance to find out a little bit more about you. And I'm delighted to be here with Randy, my co-host, who interrupted us earlier, but the floor is yours, sir.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Typically, I'm referred to as a sidekick.
Yeah.
So that's when it slides into the sidekick
Only
time.
by everybody else, never by me.
and never in front of you. Correct. So,
I told you before we started that this wasn't just going to be a show about Renova. We wanted to be an episode about Vince.
Okay.
And
thank you.
So
I don't know how that's going to work out.
Well, it might be a really short
pretty much
one.
It's going to be very
we may
short.
move into Renova pretty quickly.
Like
but
we said, it's the pod and podcast. Just a little about me. Very little. This is all I do.
You got to a place here in the desert where everybody knows the name. Everybody knows the name Renova. But you were born and raised in Oceanside, New York.
Yep.
How'd you get here?
My father was born in Italy, ended up in New York at 7 years old, went through Ellis Island, met my mom on Long Island. On Long Island, for all of you. You're a Jersey boy, so Long Island. They met in the 60s, had my sister, had me, had my younger brother. And then my father was working in the defense industry. So he was on the stealth bomber project, and so that took us across the U.S. I never knew what he did. It was a secretive thing, but we moved to I went to 3 different high schools and experienced life in many different states. Ended up in California in the early 80s. And
so your dad literally couldn't talk to you about what he was doing?
Literally couldn't. I had no idea what he was doing.
That is so.
Am I okay?
You're good.
Okay, good.
I was getting Randy's mic.
Yeah, I couldn't. He never told us. And my dad's still working, 84 years old, and
Wow.
he's
That's
still
remarkable.
consulting for Northrop Corporation.
Where in Italy did your father immigrate from?
He came from a little town in between Naples and Rome called Castellamare de Stabia. It's right on the ocean. And during the Second World War, his town was occupied by first the Nazis, and then when he was a 3-year-old, and then by American soldiers. And so he was brought up in remembering. I mean, he's got some wonderful stories.
He talked about that, huh?
Yeah, about all the things that happened to him when he was young. And then his father passed away. His father was an officer, machine gun cavalry officer in North Africa with the Italians, the Italian army under the fascists. And he was unfortunately shot off of, they were using camels, and he was shot off a camel. They sent him to Rome to recover, and he passed of pneumonia in the hospital in Rome.
Oh, wow.
And so his mother, Maria, was left with, the oldest son, my father, and his brother Joseph, and she wanted to get them out of Italy. It was just ravaged. Their town was flattened. And she met an American serviceman. She fell in love. She took the 2 boys, and they came to America. And my father has worked his way up from that, absolutely having nothing, and the things that his mom had to do in order to keep them going in New York. They moved to Jamaica, Queens, and he had a really rough time when he was as a young Italian immigrant, but he's a brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant.
This is kind of the American story, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything I've read about history was about your dad coming through Ellis Island.
Yeah, well, the things I was most fascinated by, my father lived. And so it was cool when I'm glad he moved out here full-time with my mom. They've been married 60 years now, and they moved full-time out to Rancho Mirage. So it's fun to have them around now, because it's fun to have my dad pop by, the corporate offices, and he always reminds me, and who gave you this opportunity? I had to come through Ellis Island to give you this opportunity. No, you have 300 plus employees and all that.
Just in case you don't remember.
Just in case I don't remember, right? Like every time I don't, on the weekend, or he's just calling me constantly and wants to be involved with Renova. And he's the biggest pain in the ass. So he comes over, and everyone's like, your father said that I was not engineering this correctly. I wasn't doing the design right. I'm like, hey, Pop, leave everybody alone. What
do you take from your dad?
My drive is what I take from him. He's the guy. He would get us up every morning at 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning, and from that, your day begins, and you don't go to bed until everything is picked up and cleaned up, and then you pass out and you wake up, rinse and repeat. And that's him. And it's because of his struggle coming over. So,
my grandfather shares that history. He came through Ellis Island. And does your father look back fondly at Italy? My grandfather never wanted to return, and never did.
Really? One quick story on this. My father didn't return until 1963. And he came back as a young engineering student, brought a bunch of his buddies. And this always tears me up inside. I'll not cry on the podcast, but his story is...
You'd be the first guest not to. I mean,
is that right? Yeah, but if you stop twisting my... stop pinching me, maybe I wouldn't cry.
Have to stab you in the eye with a straw.
Exactly.
But we get
We made him cry naturally on this show.
That's what I meant, naturally.
Naturally.
He went back in 63 with a bunch of his college buddies, and he went back to his hometown, and he said, he landed, the place was still flattened, and he saw a bunch of his neighbors who had grown up to be taxi drivers or just generally hustlers, because the government was not, there was no safety net, there was no support.
There have been something like 68 governments in Italy since World War II.
Since the Second World War,
yeah.
Right. So all this, swapping back and forth. And they were looking at him like this golden boy, because, he had survived and gone back to America. And they were making fun of his accent and everything else, because, but he was trying to embrace them like, you're my people. I left you, you're my people. Well, they weren't really having any of that, because he had left and gone to the other side of the ocean. But after that experience, he flew home. And his stepfather, who was an American, he was this American soldier who his mother had married, he had no respect for, growing up, because he didn't understand the sacrifice that man went through, bringing a lady and her boys to the States and getting them to acclimate. And my father gave him a big hug and just, when I think about it, my father doesn't cry. And he said he teared up and he was crying. He said, Jerry, thank you so much for saving us, because that is not a life back there.
He saw his future.
He saw his future.
What it would have been had he not left.
So he makes sure that we understand that. And we've traveled back several times to his town, and most of his relatives have passed away. I mean, people die in their 40s and 50s, and it's just normal in that part of the world. And so he wants us to understand that, we were very fortunate.
It's got to be pretty emotional going back.
Yeah. Yeah, even to this day, he goes back and he'll stand at certain places, and he gets very emotional with it. And he's not an emotional guy, and to have him tear up, and so those things, that's a part of my character, And so when I get the utility, or my battles, my last name Battaglia it literally means fighter, and Vince is actually a verb of vince. Vince is to fight. So it's a victory over battle, to vince is to, and so my father taught me that you don't have that name for no damn good reason. You're supposed to be on that path. And so it's funny to talk about that, but when I was younger, I always was trying to prove myself. I've been in too many scrapes, in my life. And my father said, you're not supposed to physically fight, you idiot. You're supposed to fight with what you've been given, and you've been given a chance to grow in this country, and I'm not going to let you throw that away. And so that shaped a lot of the way that I am, and that's what Renova is. So when I have the utility, or I have other local people who want to compete in a nefarious way, they're
in trouble.
I won't put up with that crap. So just let y'all know.
There was a time, and I don't think that time is now anymore, but there was a time where there was money available for renewables and startups and that sort of thing, and a lot of people jumped on a bandwagon that weren't really dedicated to the industry per se, but they were dedicated to making an easy buck, whether it was selling a system or getting a little tax break and a little government assistance.
Right.
You guys have withstood that, and you've seen a lot of companies come and go. How long ago did you start Renova? Because you guys were ahead of the curve on this.
It was, so 2005, I could see the writing on the wall with the economy that was rapidly sinking. I was a part of the real estate industry, so I was a commercial real estate broker working with C.B. Richard Ellis, and shout out to all the C.B. Richard people. They were great people to me, but I could see that we weren't able to make deals in 2005. And it was one day I was at the Starbucks that used to exist at right now at the Whole Foods Center. There's an ice cream shop there now, and that used to be a Starbucks. And I would sit there and I would read the paper and have my coffee and figure out, what am I going to do in this industry? This real estate industry is just not going anywhere for me. I like to make the deals. I put together the Walmart, the Super Walmart at Monterey, but they were few and far between. But I love this. I've been here since 1999, and so I just love this community, and I wanted to stay here. Well, lo and behold, the Sunday paper says that University of California, Riverside will be opening up a satellite, and they offer an MBA program. So on that Monday, I went down and I applied, and I was the first student accepted to the first master's program at our satellite campus at Cook and Frank Sinatra. So the cohort were 21 students, and by the end of our first year of 2000, so I basically quit everything. I sold off everything that I had, and I focused on this MBA program. This was 2005 to 2006. And in 2006, they said, you're going to have to create a master's thesis and defend it at the end of 2006 into 2007. So you have to start a business. And I looked around, and I had... My previous life, I lived in Russia from the early 1990s, 92 until 99.
What took you to Russia?
That was another series.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your film and TV career.
Yeah, that was all.
But go ahead.
All there. That was just because I'm a terrible student. I'm a horrible student, and in order for me to get out of school at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo in '92. I had to talk my way into getting 10 credits by going on this trip to Moscow. And that was, I didn't know where I was going. I was stupid 20.
He didn't know it was in Russia.
I had no idea. I thought it was Moscow, Texas. I had no idea. And here we are. It's cold as shit. And I have no idea what I'm doing.
Those aren't the accents I expected.
No, and I mean, they're speaking a different language. What the hell? I heard of Southern drawl, but this is crazy. So I went from there. I decided to stay in Moscow, and I grew a company there. I had a television and radio and all sorts of cool. We did music videos. We did construction. Really a lot of great things in 7 years. And then I could see their economy was faltering. Yeltsin was dying. Putin was coming in. And so I left in 99. I landed here in the desert. My parents had a little condo. I had really long hair. I was speaking Russian. I didn't know what my next move was. And shaved all my hair off and understood this community was a real root community. And I wanted to be a part of this community. So I worked at real estate. My first jobs were for $15 every 4x4 post. I would plant real estate signs for different realtors, and I did that for about a year, just trying to scrape money together. This was in 2000, 2001. Then, like I say, 2005, the master's program comes along.
And so you end up with your master's degree.
Get my master's, and my thesis was Renova. This was the business I was going to build. So in that year, I used the word renovable, which means renewables in Spanish, cut that short to Renova, and then built a brand and thought, well, I hope this gets me an A. And then all of a sudden I defended it in 2007. I had a little condo on Ryway Place up off of Grapevine. And I had no storage. I had a carport, an open carport, so I would drive the solar panels into the carport, take them down by hand, and then park the truck so nobody would take the solar panels.
You were like Hewlett and Packard.
That was
working out of your garage.
It wasn't even the damn garage. Whenever anyone says to me, that was like an 8 feet. It was a carport. There was one wall.
My dream was to have a garage.
It was my dream if I would have had 3 more walls, maybe even a door. So that was how that began, and we built 3 systems in the first year in 2006, and now we did last year about a little over $71 million in revenue, and we have 330 employees now. This year we'll do over $100 million in revenue. We just opened up in Arizona, and in Tucson, and then we're going next up to northern Arizona in Prescott, and then we're going over to Nevada. And we were invested in by a company called SunPower. And SunPower took a 10%.
And they manufacture the panels.
That's right.
Correct.
Yep. And they are the best company out there, and I've stuck with them for 11 years. And it was good because they're all about quality, and it wasn't about a quick sale. And where you were going before I interrupted you with this ridiculous story, it was 8 minutes ago. You were right on point. There were incentives. Everyone was like, "This is a cool trend. Let's jump into this. I can make my Range Rover payment, and then I'll go on to timeshares or something." Yeah. And the bug bit me, and I wrote a book in 2015 called Cut the Cord, which literally means just cut from the electric utility, which is what we're doing for people.
Available on Amazon.
Available on Amazon, thank you.
Cut the Cord.
As a part of that research, I discovered, I didn't even discover this when I was researching for the master's program for the original Renova and the business plan, but I discovered back in the late 1840s, solar was starting to pick up, and the very first person in the world to get a patent for anything solar related was a guy named Alessandro Battaglia. And he came from right outside of my father's town, a place called Capua. And I'm like, "Pop, there's this guy, Alessandro." He goes, "There's a lot of Battaglias in that area." I'm like, "Dad, but how many of them got into solar, for God's sake?" So I'm a weird person. I take things as a universe talking. And I took that as a sign that, you're on path here. There's something here. And so thanks to Alessandro and his patent, he was at the University of Genoa. And so my sister and I, when we traveled back to Italy about 5-6 years ago, we went to trace his steps and find out, we saw his patent, we saw all that cool stuff. So it's kind of for me, it's a purposeful thing.
You said something a minute ago about the importance of the community. You wanted to get to know the community. Were you raised like that? Was that something that was important to your parents?
Wow. Damn, now I know he's no sidekick. He's got some potent. I had never been asked that before.
Don't let him know that though.
Yeah, no, you're right. I shouldn't. We can
We'll
cut
cut
that. We'll
all
edit
my
that. We'll cut
questions
that
out.
The business card says sidekick.
How funny. It's just like beep 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 beep. Beep. Yeah, it's a great
I'm trying
question.
to figure out where it came from.
It was my desire to put roots down because we had moved around so much, and I have cousins on the East Coast who were like, why does your father make you guys travel away from New York, and he's got you in Washington D.C. and in Chicago, and you're all over the place. And we were known as the weird, cousins because we were the West Coast Battaglias. Nobody does that on the East Coast. So your farthest travel is you go New York to Florida when you're ready to retire.
That's 100% true.
So us coming to California just seemed so
But he wasn't
strange.
taking you to little villages. You were going to Washington and Chicago.
True. That's true. But I also missed. I'm a Cancer. In case anyone knows about signs, there I'm a Cancer, and we like home. We are those sensitive beings. I like to set up a home environment. That's my thing. That's why if you look at the corporate center, it's there to be recognized, and it's there to be a nice open venue for showing people what solar is and inviting. But I also make sure that the colors, and the feel, and there are textures. It's not all steel, and it's there to be a home for the Renovians. We call it, by the way, they're called
I love that.
Renovians. Yeah, I wanted to add that. That's an internal type thing, but now you're all a part of it. So for Renovians, I like to create that family, and about nearly 70% of Renovians are in the Hispanic community from El Salvador, from Mexico, and they are so close in family belief as Italians.
Yes.
We are so similar that even the colors of our flags are very, very close. We're just very similar in personality and in temperament. And so it's fun to discuss La Familia, it's fun, and that just has a lot of meaning to me. And I think a lot of companies forget that. When the pandemic came, most companies believed to, pull the cord and kick everybody out and make the company survive. And for Renova, it was a completely different thing. I rallied everybody around. That dumbass governor came out and sorry about that. I know we shouldn't get political, but he came out.
The views expressed are
came out and told everybody, you go home, close up. What are you, an idiot? I mean, why would you do that to people? You can't. First of all, people need something to do. You have to provide for them a sense of purpose, and you can't just knee-jerk everything. And so that was a major screw-up. But all that aside, you have to show genuine concern for other people before you show any concern at all for yourself. And that's the way Renova has grown. And I'm lucky I don't have any children, I don't have a wife. Renova is those are my children, that's my wife, that's my girlfriend, it's everything.
The passion comes across in town. I mean, honestly, you
remain one of the most eligible bachelors in town.
Yeah, well, but then you remember though, we're in a small town.
Yes.
You can't, it's a double-edged sword, man. You want to go mess around, you're going to get in trouble. you want to, so you got to be, you know this. I'm just going to,
Vince
as an
was
aside.
named, you were named as one of the top 10 businessmen in the Coachella Valley in 2018.
Yeah, that was Rancho Mirage, right?
And that was just before you were named as People Magazine's sexiest man in America.
Where Brad Pitt and I shared that cover. It was a pain in that photo shoot. Fucking guy's a jerk.
What's Brad doing?
And really, what did he do with his life?
What did he do?
What did he do?
You built a company.
You know what? I was about to say the same thing. I'm glad we share that.
You built a company and you're good looking. He's just good looking.
And all he is good looking, right?
That's it.
Man, this wine is starting to kick in.
He hasn't had like 3
I just
sips.
compared myself to Brad Pitt. What the hell?
Now, we're going to talk for about 20 minutes about IID, since that's where I live.
Are we?
But that'll be just a few minutes. You are so proud of that campus that you built there on Cook. Talk about that for a minute, because in my previous position at the Chamber, you and I were talking about that a lot, and I was really excited about being part of the opening.
Yeah.
Where are you with it now?
And by the way, thank you for being one of the only. You're not you're involved in politics, but you're not political. And one of the nicest things that happened was your recognition when you were in that position, when there was, I don't know if anyone knows, that your entire organization got eviscerated during the pandemic. Yeah. This man was bottle washer. He was bottle buyer. He was he was coffee guy. And for you to take the time out when you were spread totally thin, and to recognize Renova and to recognize me and take your time out, that meant a lot to me at that time, because everyone had gone away. I couldn't get the attention of the only one I can give massive kudos to, who's a politician in a sense, is Jan Harnick. Absolutely love Jan. And you two, I will always remember that 2.5 years that went by through that dark period where you guys just made me feel like, all right, there's still people out there, there's still community members who care.
I was doing the same thing. I was looking for those people in the community who still cared about the community, and you were one of those people.
But you gave recognition, like you used your position to step out of the office and get out into the air, and you didn't mask up, and it was beautiful.
I forgot how awesome I was.
You really
look at some of that.
Yeah, but then when you said you were departing, I'm thinking, after he just fucking saved this whole organization.
Well, but it almost killed him. I mean,
yeah, there is that.
He did. They did. You passed out at Fashion Week.
Well, yeah, but I'll do anything for some news.
For a little attention.
Everything else I was doing wasn't getting me any attention, so I just dropped to the ground.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah.
You've never really lived a good life until you wake up with a 260-pound sheriff about to give you mouth-to-mouth.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
wow.
You'll see religion really fast.
But what I was impressed by was your
What religion?
He said, "Go ahead."
I did.
Told the guy,
I was about to say.
I acted like the end cutting too.
Yeah. I just got to get your name first. That's all.
Name and badge number, sir.
Name and badge number, and then go right ahead. Lay it on me.
Thank you for that. Hey, by the way, one of the things
wrong with that. Nothing we would have done.
I am very happy to keep talking about me, but let's move back to Vince for a moment.
No, let's not. I've never had a 260-pound cow. And no, I'm not asking for any of your listeners if you're a 260-pound
We can reenact anything on this podcast. Last year, you and Jan did something that was pretty cool.
Yes.
You put a recognition day together for outdoor workers.
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
First of all, how did that go? And second of all,
very good.
Are we going to see it again?
We are. So it was a young lady who I have to give a shout out to, an Emily Langenbahn.
Yeah.
And Emily is a god. She's a god.
I worked with her. She's awesome.
And unfortunately, Tom Kirk, I'm after you, buddy. I'm gunning for you because he stole her from me. But he's the only one I would allow take her from me, because she went to CVAG and she's heading up to sustainability, or she's working in their sustainability group, and there could not be a better person. And this upsets me as well. I get teary over her because she was one of my absolute favorite mentees. She picked up everything like a sponge. I had for 2 years the honor to work with her, and now CVAG gets her, and thank God, because now she can spread what we are doing to a much wider audience. So it was Langenbaum's idea. Ems came up with this great idea to support not just Renova's teams that are out on rooftops at 120 to 140 degrees, but also the Burtec folks, any gardener, anyone who's out. Folks forget. We lock our doors and shut our shades and turn the air conditioner. Right. And there's these people.
We complain about this.
I think I know Jan, but I'm sure you and Jan both came on Eye on the Desert.
Yes, we did. Exactly right. We were on the show and so every year it's held in July, and what we do is, the idea is you take ice creams and you take watermelons and you take water, and we drive around in the Renova vehicles, and we hand out to everyone who's outside at a certain time of the day. And we don't want to make it like it's this glorious, you get a t-shirt and a membership. It's just taking care of other humans and taking care of them because of what they're doing. If without outdoor workers in this valley, the valley would friggin' shut down. It's not just a matter of driving around in a car and having your air conditioner on and wish that you can cut that tree down or make sure that road is clear. There are people who actually perform those duties, and if they get out at 4:35 in the morning, they can get the work done. But no one, not everybody is going to get out at 4:30 and 5. So by noon, you're still out there and exposed to the elements. So that's one of the ways. And it started with us being cognizant of our own people, and then seeing our Burtec friends, and then seeing just gardeners, private gardeners, pool people. You're around water all day as a pool person, but
you're not in it.
You're not in it.
You're not in it.
You can't jump in it. I mean, so that's just something that's an indigenous issue, but with a solution. Just recognizing these folks and letting them know that, hey, we got you. It's fun to watch. A lot of the gardeners will go. We were installing a system in Bighorn. And, the gardeners around Bighorn, we were actually told initially by the folks at Bighorn not to feed. Or it was like, don't feed the animals. Are you fucking kidding me? So we were stopping all along the way, and we were giving bottles of water, and the guys were just so thankful. They were so. I'm sorry, the Bighorn people are going to be pissed at me. Well, here's the red wine for you. That was talking, but they were telling.
Renova can take over the Bighorn sponsorship on our show.
That's right. God, I hope you didn't have it, because you don't have it anymore. but that is. I think we just all need to be more cognizant of what goes on in our valley for 3 months out of the year.
And more than 3 months, really. It's remarkable the work. And I watched your crew. It took about 3 days for them to do the install at our house, and not a big system, but up on the roof first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And actually, we did our install during the pandemic. I was working from home. I was broadcasting from the house.
No kidding. How'd they do? How about
they did great. They did great. I mean, I would go up and okay, I'm on the air now, and they would
good.
But they were terrific about it. But it's tough duty. And I think it's really important to recognize because, and as you point out, it's not just the solar workers, but the guys driving around those Burtec trucks and all of the things that go on. In our valley that we sort of overlook, okay, well, the gardener came today. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we
were annoyed because of the sound at 6:30 in the morning.
Right, and then you start and you call police. This is what we found out from the sheriff's department.
Right.
They get calls on Saturdays and Sundays. Well, these folks are working 6 and 7 days a week.
Yeah, and do you want them out there at 3 in the afternoon when it's 120?
And you know what? Right. Most people are like, you know what? I wouldn't see him then. It doesn't bother my day. Bullshit.
Right.
And that's when you start to see really the makeup of our community here, where we get, I would say, 30, 40, 50% of the people who are actively living out here in the summer come from somewhere else. Yeah. And they just don't know. They don't know. They just think that life goes on just like it did in Newport Beach and usually it's an older crowd of folks who've moved out here from somewhere else. And if anyone's listening and they fall into that category, I'm not trying to upset you. I'm just trying to get you to understand.
Open your eyes.
Open your eyes. And once you're cognizant of it, you're going to see this world of ours in this desert, this community, you'll see it in a different way.
Well, there's a huge catchphrase now. And people always talk about various members of the community being seen, being more visible. And we often don't see certain groups. I think those outdoor workers fall in that category no matter what other minority or majority they come from. We don't see that, and I think it's really important to point that out.
That's a great point. You can be part of you can have a different thought process or be in a different community, and we talk about not wanting to see them, but these folks are working. They're trying to make a living, so why do we treat them as if they're supposed to be this unseen? That's what third world fucking countries are made
exactly
of.
Right.
That's not this country. Yeah. And that's a big part of when I came back from Russia, what had me think when they said, you got to start a business to graduate. And so think of a field where you'd like to make a difference. Where would you start a business where perhaps there's a monopoly in place? And I remember scratching my head. This is before the idea of an electric company or an actual replacement and a transitional business, in electricity. Before I thought of that, I thought, this is America. We don't have monopolies. Because I saw all of them in Russia. And then all of a sudden my bill came in the mail from Southern California Edison. I went, wait a minute. How do I get out of this?
Not only do we have monopolies, we have state-sanctioned monopolies.
We do, don't we? Isn't that wonderful? A business model protected,
all
right?
I want to jump in here and speak specifically about the solar business and about something that just happened about the change in net metering.
Right.
And again, we're not a political podcast, and I'm certainly not a political person. However,
Will you let me? I
will let you.
Thank you.
I will turn it all over to you. But one of the things that I'm really angry about, because as a meteorologist and an environmental science major, I've always been on the side of the environment. We should be doing more and more things to encourage the proper use of renewables, to encourage better, use of our resources and being custodians. In the last year, we have reduced the net metering to the point where now, instead of payback is about 7 years now, it's more like double that or even triple that for a solar system on an average household.
Right.
How in the state that is supposed to be the most environmentally conscious state in the not just in the country, really, we're supposed to be the most environmentally conscious group on the planet.
Right.
How do we allow that to happen?
Yeah, my head's going to explode with so many paths I can take here, but you've hit the crux of the issue. We are living in a state that should really be more open to doing the right thing.
We should be paying people with solar on their rooftops far more.
So what happened was, you have my only competition. When people say, who's your local competition? I say, the utility. I have no competition out here. All of those other folks who have installation companies, they're my brethren. They are my ally. They're selling the same thing I am, which is an option of getting away from this legalized monopoly that's been around for 130 years. You know, SCE was given that territory 130 years ago to implement these centralized power plants. 40% of all the carbon that we have in our atmosphere, which is proven, scientifically proven. It's not there's no argument. The Dems can't argue. The Republicans can't argue. The climate is changing.
It is what it is.
The climate is changing.
Because of carbon in the atmosphere. And 40% of that carbon comes directly from the generation of electricity. So we have ourselves a utility that's generating the electricity. That's how they make their bread and butter. That's how they stay in power. That's how they maintain the monopoly. They don't want to see an alternative. And the only alternative to come and compete against them has been rooftop solar. So there's a difference. Not all solar is the same. Rooftop solar.
Not these big solar farms. These
those
giant
are crap. Absolute fucking crap. They should not be allowed, because the only reason why they're being...
Don't mince words, Vince.
I'm sorry. I know. I'm being very shy and everything.
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have somebody who would speak more directly to us about what the issues are?
Next week I'll ask someone else to come on and they can talk to you, because we're having
you back next week, because this is wildly entertaining.
I'm very closed with, yes, I know. Don't do that.
So the big solar farms are not the answer. It's the rooftop solar that helps the consumer.
Not only, yes, because it does two things. It helps the environment and the consumer. Those fields, those solar fields, they were Johnny-come-lately events, because the utilities want to remain relevant. And the lowest cost for them to build a new power plant, because that's all solar is. You have a power plant on your roof. If you see it in that way, the utilities know that their lowest cost to build a power plant are those solar fields. But they're using a technology that was made for rooftops. Photovoltaic solar panels were made for small spaces. They weren't made to be laid out in big fields.
So the one outside of Vegas.
Right. Yeah,
is that what that is?
That's a power tower. It's a different form, but it is the utility that owns it. What it is those are parabolic mirrors, and they focus light onto a tower.
Onto the tower that then does the conversion.
Exactly. It does a conversion using molten salt, and then that turns into steam, and that turns turbines. Awesome, clean way. But by the way, that damn tower is the least efficient piece of technology, but they put it out there because the utilities were paying for it, because they were required to pay for it. They build solar that requires transmission so that it can come to the city centers. It's using what we call it's a photovoltaic technology that's supposed to be what we call distributed generation. It's put up at the site at which you need the energy, but they're using it in a field way out to transport. The only reason they're doing that,
because they own the transmission
lines.
all.
That's it. The investment in the transition, and that's a 30-year investment, and it helps them make their quarterlies, and it helps them remain profitable.
Okay, let's step back, because you were pissed off a minute ago, and I stopped you from being pissed off to talk about Vegas.
It's just, if you get me doing this, okay, what were we as far as...
Any of them. Tell me about
the increase in the reduction in net metering payback to customers.
So the reason they did that was they want to be the harbingers and the monopolists in all energy generation. They don't want you to generate energy on your own rooftop. They being the utilities. Right. The big ones, Southern California Edison, Pacific Gas and Electric, San Diego Gas and Electric, and our friends at the IID. And the IID, most indignant group of mothers. And I will not rest until we rip away from them the electric side of their business. They have no right. They are bumblers. They are bumbling because right now they can't put new transmission in to allow new business to come in to the Riverside County portion, even the Imperial County portion of the district that they were given license to about 105 years ago. They can control all the water, which they should. God bless them. They're an irrigation district. But the electric, the only reason why they have control of the electric is that it funds subsidy for their water side.
For the water side.
It's about $200 and some odd million a year they get from the electric side, but they cannot manage it well. Their transmission is aged and old. And how do you think new transmission can be replaced over there? They're going to raise rates. So all those solar fields that you see out there, Southern California Edison's fields or IID's fields, they're selling you that energy at retail. And ever-increasing retail. It will never come down. But if you have your own power plant on your roof, your own photovoltaic power plant and a battery in the home, you have your own closed loop.
All right, we'll talk about batteries.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
You and I will.
Actually, we're going to have to talk about batteries.
But
I think we pre-wired yours anyway.
You did.
Okay, good.
My question is this, and I know that you can surmise the answer.
From a smile on your face like that.
My question is,
it's not always a good thing.
How? I know. I'm wondering where this is going.
How could our state, how could the administration, that professes to be so the most environmentally conscious group of individuals ever to hold office, allow the reduction in the net metering payments?
It's one man. It's Gavin Newsom. He wants to become president or vice president, whatever his design is. So he has one more term left as governor. So he has decided he doesn't want to touch this hot button. And by hot button, it would be controlling the utilities. So instead of controlling the utilities, he's kowtowing. And he's allowing them.
Is it because of the contributions that go in to elected office? I mean, is it simply the money that the Edison and the other utilities contribute?
The utilities use tens of millions of ratepayer dollars every year to lobby for every type of bill or Assembly bill or Senate bill that will allow them to maintain their monopoly. They bring in the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers, which are an amazing group of guys, wonderful group. But they are essentially they're organized labor, and they are the henchmen for the utilities because they...
Well, that's where they get the bulk of their work.
That's where they get the bulk of their work. They won't be able... Like, I want them to work on rooftops. I want members of the IBEW to be on rooftops getting thousands of hours a year so they can become linesmen and journeymans, and they can be journeymen rather, and they can become that middle class. The problem is that the IBEW, they have a requirement. I don't care about the money. I'll spend the money, the hourly. I'll pay for talented, skilled IBEW members. But the labor union wants me to transition to become an all-union shop within a year. And I will not do it. And I don't think anyone should be forced. I don't think any private enterprise should be forced to do it. I want to use their members. I want their members on rooftops. I want their members to be skilled at photovoltaic on rooftops.
But you don't want the requirement that everyone have to be the member.
So right now, the only thing a member can do is go out into a solar field, and stupidly poor guys are out there every day just shucking a stupid little solar panel. They don't do any real electrical work. They do it for 4 months, and then they go on unemployment. And they collect unemployment from our coffers. When instead I could have them on Renova rooftops day after day after day doing something interesting and being happy and feeling purposeful. But the IBEW and the local 440, they're wonderful guys to talk to. They're not being allowed to transition themselves. They expect everyone else around them, the businesses around them, to transition to union. And it's just not, it's not possible. So
simplify this for me.
Sure.
We all agree we need to do things differently.
Yeah.
I live in the IID district. Why are they making it so damn hard for me to consider getting solar?
Every customer I put on solar doesn't buy electric from them. My cost for solar right now is 12 cents per kilowatt hour. your cost in the IID for years and years. They kept saying, "Oh, we have the lowest cost. We're 13.7 cents."
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They're at almost 20 cents, and you're going to see another increase in September.
Yeah.
So we've got them beaten hands down. So I said I have meetings with them, and I talk to them. I go, "Guys, this is stupid. You're not going to win this one. You need more solar rooftops." Well, okay, all right. We're going to add, like right now, if you were to call into their solar department, there are 4 wonderful ladies who are there. Four. Where even SCE has about 80. There's 4 at IID. So by the time I install your system and get you connected and ready to go, we're already 6 to 7 months, okay? Because they are dragging their feet, and they don't want to see solar on rooftops.
That's their competition, and they're worried about it.
And they're worried about it because they can legitimately see that $250 million that they're getting in revenue is plummeting. So that board is the most. That is a criminal mafia board, and I'm saying you're going to have to hear it somewhere. And by the way, they think that by 2033. When their lease expires with the Coachella Valley Water District to lease the CVWD's lines and land and all that, they think it's a foregone conclusion, the board does, that we're just going to re-up on that lease and let them continue to operate a malignant electric company. And we're not. This is almost 10 years from now, so you're going to see I'm posting a billboard up that's going to have a countdown clock on it. And it's going to let folks know that in 10 years, and the clock's going to tick down, the lights are going to go out. People have to be aware that IID is not just the solution to let them continue to bilk money.
Has our representation on the board improved at IID?
One gentleman is great. Yeah, but by the way, they're all elected in Imperial Valley, but 67% of their customers are in Riverside.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's no one elected.
And that's what Chad was talking
about.
And
that's very good. Oh, mother of God, look at you go. That's what Chad was trying to do, but he got threatened. They threatened him and said, "Dude, do you still want to be assemblyman? Do you still want to?" So this is the game. It's all mobster shit.
It's bad stuff.
We have fun. That's why
we have fun
because we're at the corner, and you know what? Go fuck yourself. I mean, you wanna
look at our building.
Hey, this is how you build it through community. You build it one day at a time, one rooftop at a time. You build relationships. You show you don't want to hurt anybody. You just want to heal.
You guys have been around for a long time, and when I looked at solar, one of the questions I asked, because everybody. One of my biggest concerns was I don't want people drilling holes in my roof.
Yeah.
No one likes that. That's
yeah.
And then, but every company said, but we give you a lifetime warranty.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Well, but then you have to ask yourself, how long is the lifetime of that company?
There you are.
In 10 years, if I get a leak, are you guys still going to be right? And that's why I picked Renova.
Thank you.
I knew you guys would be.
It's beautiful. And we have our own roofing division within the company called Renova Roofs. I'm the contractor. I am a C10 electrical contractor. I'm a B licensed general contractor. I'm a C46 solar contractor, and I'm a C39 roofing contractor. And it's not easy to get those qualifications. And so internally, what I noticed during the pandemic was a lot of our subcontractors, the roofers and such, were not around. And it was hard to get their attention and to get them on the rooftop. So we started internally. I control all of the process, all of it. The only thing I don't do is I don't finance your system and I don't build the solar modules. But we do everything from, it's an entirely vertically integrated company, and it's for that very reason. I want everyone to go to bed at night knowing there's a 17-year plus company that is backing them. And as we open up new territories, the talent we're finding for roofers, for Renova Plus is our maintenance division.
Right.
So we do all of our own cleaning in-house, and I love training new people who. We had a young man come to us who was he was a window washer for homes, and he said, for 7 years we've been advertising that we clean solar, and I really just didn't realize there's that much involved when you're cleaning solar. It's like, yeah, dude, it's not just a dead piece of window, it's live, man. There's stuff going on. So yeah. So
well, I will say this, and this is a testament. So we actually had a leak.
Okay.
One puncture point.
Okay.
And within 4 days, you guys came out and resolved it. So
good. Where was the leak? Do you recall? Was it in one of the rooms, or how did you find out about it?
I was taking a nap on the couch, and I noticed a stain on the ceiling after a little
dripping
rain.
on your head.
Okay. Yeah,
No, it was not. So I was like, oh, that's not
Hey,
good.
the fun part, I love going out and having dinner and going to Starbucks because I get nonstop people coming up to me, and I'm not a glutton for punishment. I like to embrace you and kiss you and hug you and say hi. I don't want someone to go, motherfucker, what did you do to my... yeah, right here. Yeah. So when you get that experience doesn't just come from the person who's on your roof. It's everybody above them.
Everybody was super responsive. They were like, that was the last thing they wanted to hear, and they wanted to get it fixed right away. Like, let's make this go away very quickly.
Good. Yeah.
So
we're drinking.
What can we do?
Cheers to you.
To get...
You don't have any more.
To lean into our state representatives.
Yeah.
In the last 2 minutes of our podcast.
Yeah, I was about to say.
How do we fix this with the state of California?
We need to incentivize people to do this.
Okay.
Not de-incentivize.
So what's going to happen? There's going to be a come to Jesus within the next 18 months. Those utilities are going to file for bankruptcy. There will be Chapter 11 reorganizations. And at that point, there's an inflection point where the politicians are going to have to pay attention. There's going to have to be a glide path to taking these companies that have been given these monopolies in large territories. Those territories have to be divided up now so that the grids can be more manageable. They're going to have to be privatized, and along those grids, wherever you have indigenous wind or geothermal or solar, those micro grids will have to power that mini grid. That's what you're going to see within the next 18 months. That's because right now, so they did NEM 3.0. What does that mean? NEM stands for net metering. 2.0 was giving you about 75% of the value as a credit for the clean energy you were putting onto the grid when you weren't using it at your home.
Right.
Now it went down to 5%. So they're not giving you any value, but they're using it and they're selling it to your neighbors at retail.
Right.
And they're profiting from it.
So what are they selling it for?
Oh, God. We're at 28 cents average now. For
average 28 cents, and they're buying it for
5 to 6
cents. So, I mean, it's ridiculous.
So that's what they're making enough money at that. Every day they're coming up with a new scheme. It's time.
As a meteorologist, as someone who works in environmental science, I get asked all the time about climate change and what we can do. And this is where it needs to happen.
It's rooftops. It's individuals.
We need to make the utilities more responsive. We need to incentivize people to put solar on their rooftops in places like Southern California. I grew up in a household. We were on the East Coast. We had a solar hot water system in the 1970s. My dad was in the solar hot water business for a while. He was a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
So
he gets it.
And we were in a place where you got 40% sunshine.
Right.
You know, Virginia's not a sunny place like, Southern California.
Right.
But it was still doable then in the 70s.
Yeah.
And now with the technology, it is so doable in places like this.
Yep.
So
I don't know. It's just big money, and it's okay.
How
it's
often
crumbling.
have you been asked to run for office in the valley?
Yeah, once in a while it comes up.
Would it ever happen?
Never. It can't.
I would
got
appreciate
too much work
it
to
if you
do.
didn't. Because you say things that our politicians
I would.
aren't
If I
going to be
said I
saying.
dropped the F-bomb on stage, forget about it. Nobody would vote for me. You kidding?
I'd vote for you.
Yeah,
I'd vote for you twice.
No, you say F-bomb.
I'm registered in several places, so
Exactly.
it's okay. No, you
So
can't.
it's possible.
I'm kidding. That is a total joke.
We've got 1 minute left, but I want to ask you this.
But
Community is important to you.
Yes.
Where do you see the valley right now?
I actually see we're gonna bloom again. We have another bloom coming, folks. Get ready. The housing, the value of the house, it didn't just go up willy-nilly without any reason. There are people who want to live out here. They recognize the value of our community, and you're just going to see. We're not going to see a housing drop out here like we used to see that would follow a drop in the city centers. Our housing is going to increase, and I've been following that, and I've been following it because my mom and dad, my mom is on this nonstop, and so what I see is an absolute uptick in population,
And it's getting younger too.
and it's getting younger. I'm seeing that as an employer.
Yes.
I mean, I'm getting younger and more talented, and we're hiring a marketing director, and we've got some insanely talented people who want to live here. And so God bless us. I think we're going to see the next 3-4 years. We're going to see a real explosion in growth.
Vince, what an amazing company! What you've done for the Valley is pretty phenomenal. The way you've put a message out there that we all need to hear.
We've only just begun.
Yeah.
Well, we've only scratched the surface with you, but we didn't get to talk about the
IID,
the charitable work.
Next time we won't drink. And maybe
I think maybe we'll have some more before. First of all, I want to really thank you for your refreshingly honest.
Thank you. I apologize about the swear words. I know it upsets people, and I should be.
The nice thing about a podcast is people choose to listen, and
there's no FCC,
we want this. Randy and I both want this to be, and John, our producer, want this to be an open forum, and seriously, very refreshing to hear.
If it inspired
a very
anyone,
blunt take.
If it's inspired, or if you've got more questions, you all know where I am. You literally can see my office from that corner of Cook and Hoveley.
Love the
Come
campus.
on by. We'll invite you in. It would be fun to actually. We should do, if it's possible, to do a remote or something from that facility. I don't know if you ever do things like that.
We can work that out.
I would love to invite
Big
you over there.
Conversations at Renova.
Yeah, that's the next podcast.
That's the next podcast. Well, people want to know. People want to see what's behind the wall, and I appreciate that. And it's a wide open space.
Well, I think your transparency again is something special and remarkable, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
On behalf of my co-host and sidekick Randy Florence, our guest Vince Battaglia from Renova Energy, and of course our producer, engineer, and man of all trades, John McMullen. We appreciate you joining us for Big Conversations Little Bar. We thank Skip, our host here at Little Bar, and we'll be transitioning to summer hours, but we're still going to be churning out good content, so keep it tuned right here. BigConversationsLittleBar.com. I'm Patrick Evans. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to Big Conversations Little Bar. Join Randy and Patrick next time as we keep the conversation going right here on Big Conversations Little Bar.